Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Alchemy Sisters. You are here with Mandee and Jennie. Hey Jennie, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Mandee. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here as always, holding space with you and our listeners. For those of you who are just tuning in, Jennie and I are the Alchemy Sisters, and we host a discussion each week with a special guest. Sometimes they're a healer, sometimes they're a coach, sometimes they're just someone navigating life and giving us different tools and resources of how to do that. All of our conversations have usually something to do with the multiverse or spirituality, and we intend to bring awareness and clarity and knowledge and free healing to our listeners and create a community. Jennie and I are very excited because you can find us, as always, on Facebook, /The Alchemy Sisters, but we're also starting a new project called Heart Over Ego, and I was wondering if you wanted to share a little bit about that, Jennie.
Yeah. Well, we've often use that phrase to describe what we're doing here on the planet. We're here to experience many things, karmic things, emotional, energetic, physical, all kinds of things. But as a collective, we're here to save the planet. I hate to be so dramatic, but it's really what's going on. And we're here to bring awareness. All the teachers are gathering around. That's also why we do the show, to bring in the people so that we can all gather together and support each other, and it's a very egoic planet we're on right now, so it's heavy. So what our new mantra is Heart Over Ego, and we're going to have a Facebook page, and I think we're going to bring on some new shows on the network here, more podcasts, different talents, and really just kind of gear toward the idea that there is a mission here. And the second we start putting strategy behind it, I think it's going to be a lot more beneficial. The movement's going to be quicker. So that's Mandee, and my intention is to put energy behind. There is a big gig going on here. If we just give it a teeny bit of awareness, we can push it so much easier. The planet is going through some interesting shifts, and we have an excellent guest tonight. My friend Mandee, of course, is on, but my friend Nikki Wall, who is one of the most revolutionary individuals I've ever met. How are you doing tonight, Nikki?
I am doing great and so excited
Wonderful.
to be here with you guys. Of course, like right when you call me on, something popped up on my phone, making noise in the background, but eliminated that. Super, super grateful to be here with you. Super excited about everything that's happening on the planet, which, you know, for some people can seem really frightening, but I believe that it's really pushing us closer to our actual goal.
I hear that, sister. For those of you who don't know, Nikki is amazing. We've had her as a guest before, and she's back tonight, so we're excited to catch up with her. She's a mystic and a visionary and a futurist and a starseed, an incredible facilitator and humanitarian, and she just has a plethora of knowledge and wisdom and experience to share. So, Nikki, we're just excited to have you back, and we're excited for our conversation.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. I'm grateful to be here too.
Yes. Can you go ahead and tell our guests how they can follow you or get a hold of you if they want to look into your services? And we'll definitely repeat this again at the end, but I always like to kind of say it in the beginning because a lot of our listeners are kind of online at the same time, and they can kind of get them familiar with your energy.
Yeah, for sure. So my primary website is nikkistarseed.love, and they can find me as Nikki Starseed on Facebook as well. I do have what they call a fan page. I hate that word, but that's what they call it. And also I do a lot of really good live streams, not just wisdom and knowledge based, but I do guided meditations of different kinds, and I bring sort of like gifts from the rest of the world onto my live streams as well. Like the other night I was at a healing event and brought some of the music and mood from that space, the fire, etc., from that space to the public, just so people can see that there is consciousness out there and that they're not alone, because I find so many people just feel like they're alone. I also have a Patreon account under Nikki Starseed. I have several goals with building that, but that is for those who wish to support me on a regular basis, because my whole life is literally faith-based. In other words, I don't have a job that I get a regular paycheck from, and all of my counseling and spiritual gifts and coaching and et cetera that I offer is all on energy exchange basis. And I just trust that I'll always be provided for, and I am. At the end, inevitably, I always receive exactly what I need, and living what I consider a truly abundant life, even though most people would see it as very minimalistic. It's like exactly everything I want and need in order to perform best in the world. And so, again, it's Nikki Starseed on Patreon, and that has some more information that is a little bit more condensed about the humanitarian aspect of things that I'm doing. And, yeah, so there's that. And Nikki is Nikki, just to be clear.
Beautiful. Thank you. Can you share with us and your listeners a little bit about your journey? We'll kind of get into your work, but maybe just a rough little summary of how you got to doing the work that you are doing and really, truly trusting and following spirit. There's always gifts for people in that when we hear a little bit of the healer stories and how they chose their path.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do like a really condensed, abbreviated version of a early childhood of a lot of trauma and religious programming, all sorts of abuse in my experience, from sexual, emotional, physical abuse, neglect, etc. And yet at the same time, I was being raised in a home and a religion that was completely multiracial, and there was constant inundation of images of a paradise earth. And, that's one of the things that the Jehovah's Witness Church actually has right, is there is a true level of equality in the way they operate. And it's always been about all colors, all people. Again, all of the literature and everything we would study had consistent images of this promised, what they call the new system of things. And typically we as a collective call it the new paradigm. And so that is something I always had faith in and just believed, even after it felt like God had failed me and, maybe I wasn't worthy of it somehow. I still felt like it was going to happen. And so when I left home at 13, I was immediately sort of adopted into what we might call the hippie community and started using psychedelics, which led to a really profound awakening when I was 14. That's when I realized that we can actually manifest our reality. We can't control the free will of another, but that truly we can control just about everything else in our reality with the right emotional and visual connections to it, if that makes sense. And, that's something I can talk about a little bit more because it's been a real focus of mine, like crystallizing this manifestation, the art of manifestation. So I also became an activist really early on with PETA and some other organizations that were defending the planet, in spite of what I was exposed to and experienced as a child in my family's home. It was really shocking for me to come out into the world and then realize that, what was actually happening on the planet with the animals and the environment and so forth. And so then, in my teen years, I became a single mom, struggled through homelessness and so forth, managed to pull myself out of that with a job working for a local gay and lesbian center, doing nonprofit work there with HIV prevention, which again was exposing me to a whole new element of life experience and learning about how politics work in policy making and the nonprofit realm, working with at-risk youth and the gay community at large. I'll say the queer community, because it was much more than just the gay community, and more activism. And then that just moved into a realm of self-employment. That was really the only real job I had after that. And I've been making my own way through the world one way or another, and I've always been into some sort of activism in one way or another. Even the times I sort of veered off to the right a bit, and I would correct back into center. And then it's been since 2012 that I have been completely, fully just diving into a life of faith and full-time service. And in 2013, I actually took my vow of service to walk this world step by step, doing whatever it is that I can to be of the greatest service to humanity in any moment in time. And that has required a lot of flexibility, a lot of patience, a lot of courage, and a lot of intuition to ensure that I really am listening to my intuition, what some people might call spirit or God or whatever it is that they resonate with, is that voice that says turn left now when you think you're supposed to go right or continue straight. The voice that says stay away from that person or go up and compliment that one. And just constantly trusting the next meal is going to be there, the next gift is going to be there, the jacket I need is going to be there, the gas money I need is going to be there, and just consistently moving in that flow through intuition and inspiration.
Beautiful story. The faith and the strength needed to carry on and continue. And you were raising a child. It wasn't just you out there. I mean, I think it's brilliant, as well as I think that the universe has just had your back hardcore as well with that faith. I think that's one of the gifts that it will throw back to us. Maybe not exactly when we think we should or, get it or what have you, but just knowing that it's going to be there. It's going to show up. Brilliant faith. You're shiny and golden, it looks like, from the non-physical. Your spirit guides are stepping forward, and so are mine, and they're just having me tell you basically that she's golden. She's got faith, but she's got actual energy to back herself up. Like, she does the shit. And I'm like, she does. She's golden. She's got the recipe.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting when you say that about, it's not just about it always being there. It truly is vibrational and related to what we're willing to receive at any given moment in time, and how we're perceiving ourselves and how balanced that is, above, below, within, without, all of it, body, mind, spirit, thought, word, and deed. It really is a balancing act. But when we integrate the full embodiment of what it means to be a co-creator, we can literally manifest miracles. And I'm starting to see it more and more the closer I'm getting to that singularity point. And in hindsight, I always see that whenever I've received exactly what I've needed, there was always more available to me. And it was typically either my vibration, my lack of faith, or truly my unwillingness to receive that brought only what I needed as opposed to more.
For sure.
I love
because
that.
What I think happens, and it's been like this for me in my existence, and I'm sure other people experience it, but with strength, sometimes side effect is pride. And sometimes the side effect of pride is I don't need any help, which then can be harmful. It's good to be independent and such, but learning that the older I've gotten, the more armor I've had to take off from my childhood all the way up. I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm okay with asking for help. I don't have to be a one-man band. And that was difficult because, in my training, so to speak, my upbringing, you just count on yourself, and that's for sure going to be there, and that's okay, but it's not healthy forever. Nikki, I remember reading one of your articles. You're such a brilliant writer. And I remember reading, and I hope it's okay that I'm bringing this up. I think it was public, and I'm pretty sure, and you were allowing people to read this. But I think at one point maybe your mother had dropped off your sisters to you, and you had your own child at that point, and you were then responsible for another couple family members. Did I read that right?
You did. When I was 19, I actually, I had my son who was just going on 3, and I was working full-time and going to school full-time. And my mom asked me to watch my sisters overnight while she moved, and then we never saw – well, we did eventually see her, but it was almost a year later. And so I ended up with my sisters and taking care of them as well after leaving, an abusive relationship that I actually ended up returning to out of desperation, actually, for a while. And that was really challenging. But, things really leveled out for me in my mid-20s. I ended up getting married to my childhood sweetheart. We're still friends. We parted ways in 2012. And he was really the one that told me that, you need to go eat, pray, love. He's like, you need to go find yourself in the world and go travel, have a good time, and do what you need to do. And he's actually been one of the constants in my life since I was young, and has been an amazing co-parent with the daughter we gave birth to shortly after we came back together in our mid-20s after on and off teen years. and yeah, so I would say that it was the first 25 years of my life were the most traumatic. And again, in hindsight, while I can't control what anybody else did, and there was nothing I could have done to prevent what happened to me within my own home and by the people that I was supposed to love and trust, or that were supposed to love and take care of me, I'm fully aware, too, of the things that I chose beyond that made my situation more difficult, and that's part of what's given so much of the wisdom I have now, which took me a long time to say I have wisdom, but that I have this wisdom is because I'm willing to love myself enough to say these were choices I made that I no longer resonate with. I understand their side effects and unintended consequences and so forth. And that's quite literally what's helped me to be able to empower so many others as well. So, yeah.
I love that.
I often say that.
Like...
Go ahead, Mandee.
Oh, I was just going to say, that is like what we talk about a lot. And that's like some of the first seeds for like alchemy and healing yourself is like owning these shadow sides and owning the sides that it's hard to say, yep, I did make that decision. I made it in spite of this or that because I was led to at the time. But like when you know better, you do better. And the more you can learn and hold yourself and see things from a different perspective, the more you can advocate and facilitate your own change. And it's so beautiful to hear you speak of that. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And it's funny because earlier we were talking about what's happening in the collective, and I think that that's really what is coming up in the collective more now than ever before, which is that, I noticed like a couple of years ago, there was sort of this rebellious cognitive dissonance and victimhood just rampant in the collective. Like, this isn't my fault. This is Monsanto's fault. This is Trump's fault. This is this one's fault. And there's still a lot of that there. But I'm starting to feel, and this is why I keep speaking to this on my videos, and I'm creating, tonight is actually the launch of the Womb of Liberation, which are new intensives I'm doing. And we focus a lot on this too, which is the places that we can have an impact, individual, our individual power in the collective efforts. And a lot of people that have been experiencing the cognitive dissonance are coming to this place of, I believe that they're finally willing to accept responsibility. And what I want to encourage all of us to do, and what I'm trying to transmit to the collective constantly, is that compassion and self-forgiveness, because we've all just done the best we can in any moment with the information we had. And even in those places when we slipped and did less than that, and we were aware that we were doing less than that, as soon as we commit to doing better and we're really going in that direction, then we can literally set down any baggage of blame or guilt or shame or anything like that, and just move forward empowered, using our choices from the past as fuel to ignite our fires of passion to do, quote unquote, the right thing moving forward. And that means everything from participation in factory farming, and using water bottles and any sort of like racism or sexism, or there's so much that's coming to the surface that, it's really to the point where there's not a single person that is spotless, so to speak, or blameless or sinless, however somebody wants to say that. There's not a single person here that can say that they are not somehow responsible for the situation we're in through their actions or inactions, their beliefs or whatever. And so, we don't need to go through a collective, what's the word I'm looking for? We really don't need everybody to just beat themselves up. What we need is everybody to go, okay, you're right. I have been using way too many plastic water bottles and just throwing them away and not recycling them, or in general, just I should not have been buying water bottles. I could have had a renewable one and a water filter or whatever it is. And now I'm going to make that change. Okay, you're right. I have been eating way too much fast food or any at all, and processed foods, whatever it is, that has been affecting the pollution and global warming on the planet. It's been affecting my health. It's been affecting slave labor. It's, whatever it is, and I'm done with that. Whatever it is, we can literally quantum leap. And that's what I teach in my workshops on leveraging polarity at festivals and spiritual events and so forth. So that is the most popular one that brings people to tears, and that's the one that literally says that you can go from the darkest point in your life to the greatest expression of your life with empowerment and total liberation by realizing that you don't have to go through the other parts as long as you're truly committed to that dual experience and expressions.
That is a really cool thing to offer at festivals. I think the people at festivals are in a good space. I think they're off work. They're relaxing. They're checking into life at a different frequency. I think that's a perfect time to present the case of betterment, healing, alchemizing. Brilliant. So which festivals do you like to hit? Do you just hit random ones, or do you show up to certain festivals each year where people may be able to find you, or do you kind of just do it random?
Oh, well, so There are some that I'm called to assist in production with. So I recently did a fairy festival called Fairy Love
Cool.
What was that? Desert Hot Springs, California. And I'm literally, crewing up for Lucidity Festival right now. Lucidity Festival is a pilgrimage for me, and I believe the best festival out there, the most life-changing, the most uplifting, the one that has the greatest amount of integrity, other than Burning Man, which a lot of people still take issue with, and I find that they typically just don't understand what it is and what it's doing for the planet. But Lucidity Festival is just a brilliant event that never disappoints me and literally just brings so much to the collective and humanity at large. And just, it's amazing. It really is a good event.
Very cool.
To know. There's so many. Sorry, Mandee. It's just there's so many to find the ones that you might resonate best with. So thanks for that heads up.
Yeah, because you really want to avoid things like, you really, really, really want to avoid things like Coachella that are the opposite of what the transformational festivals are.
Sure.
Yeah, I went to Arise in Colorado when I was out there, and I enjoyed that one a lot. And I got to go to a lot of workshops and stuff and learn out about herbal medicine or, different types of communication styles and all kinds of different meditation classes. And I really enjoyed that. And then it was just getting down with the music in between and later at night. And it was awesome. And it was all very community based and very green, and it had wonderful energy to it. So for our listeners, if you've never been to a music festival, I'd encourage everyone to at least check one out and do your best to find one that resonates with you, of course, and piques your interest, but might be good for the planet too and creating community.
Absolutely.
Nikki, can you tell us a little bit about what you mentioned earlier and crystallization and the art of manifestation?
Well, so, the information has always been there, and it's truly part of this journey is, for us to individually and collectively learn together. And there was a lot of clues pointing me in the direction, and so I've been experimenting with it quite a bit. And it started to really sink in because I was already working on the individual pieces, and then I started realizing that when I'm applying them simultaneously, that it was creating amazing manifestations, just absolute miracles in my own life and in others when I would truly feel the love and gratitude and then seeing the miracle. And that is that, it really is about pulling in the finding that singularity point within you that is the creative force of source or God, whatever you wish to call it again, but that ability we have to co-create and manifest our reality, not just in physical abundance, but in heart-centered experience, in our ability to assist others, even if it's just, finding just the right person that needed us to sit and hold their hand at a bus stop to release their pain to and be encouraged and heard and seen. And it's about truly embodying a space of balance with the above, the below, the within, the without, incorporating that in body, mind, and spirit, and thought, word, and deed. So it really is a bit of a recipe, and we've kind of been, depending on the path we've been walking, we've been focusing on one or two aspects of that. I have found that several of the spiritual paths I have walked we'll focus on like the mindfulness of body, mind, and spirit. And then of course in magic, as you know, it's above, so as above, so below is more of like the pagan and Wiccan and magical side of things. And then, the thought, word, and deed, working with law of attraction and taking deliberate action, like, the visualization and the speaking of it and acting like it is and so forth. So it really depends on what path you've been on or which paths, multiple, that you've been on, as to which part you've been exposed to. And then, really taking all of that and bringing it together lately is where I've had the greatest results. And so part of what's happening in the new intensives I'm doing, in addition to helping guide people on like a somewhat sober psychonautic journey, so it is very psychedelic and shaman, but my techniques sort of bring them into those thought spaces that psychedelics would, to help their exploration. Each person is able to see where they're ready to be liberated and liberate themselves and others, and how they're here to take action in the world individually, and what collective efforts, etc. And then also their points of practice for this exercise in manifestation, and truly embodying the master manifester role on the planet, because I believe that's one aspect of world peace, is our ability to manifest it in addition to take action in it. And in order to take action in it, we have to believe in it and so forth. But that has been just one aspect of my focus lately, a pretty intense one actually, because of, I did find out that my human design is master manifestor, and so I wanted to learn more about that, but then it just like sort of opened up a whole can of worms, as my homework usually does. And that's what's been coming out of it, is these really profound realizations of what it means for anybody to embody the master manifest, and that's exactly it.
That human design is a trip. I mean, I thought astrology was good, and then I started looking into human design, and I had to keep putting the book down because I was tripping out on how it was describing me so well. I was like, oh boy, that was cool. Have you tried that, Mandee? Have you had your human design calculated, or however they say it?
No, I just took a little note. I wrote down a little note to be like, whoa, back up. What's human design? Because I have no idea, and I want to learn more about it.
Yeah, so there's different roles, there's like master projectors, and there's manifestors, there's master manifestors, there's projectors, master projectors, and so on and so forth. And so I tend to be a master manifester, which means that I can do plenty for myself, what I see and visualize for my own life and experience and for the collective at large. But that I am a really useful tool, and that sounds like really diminishing, but in collaboration with others, I can literally help amplify their manifestations as well.
You're like a clear quartz crystal.
Say that again?
I said you're like a clear quartz crystal. Very important.
Goodness, that's such a synchronicity that you said that, because yes, I actually had a group of brothers, Native American brothers, that wanted me to participate in a ceremony as the only female, and they kept saying that I was the crystal. So I wasn't going to have to do anything but be present in the center of the circle of their ceremony, and that I was the crystal in that.
That's interesting and cool.
Yeah, I feel like I did this once before, and I came up as a communicator or something, but I found a little thing, so as we're chatting, I'm going to look and find out, and then I'll be able to communicate to you what my design is.
Yeah, I think that was generator.
Yeah, there's like a generator.
I think
people are
resonated.
listening. I looked online, and there's something called Jovian Archive, Discover Your Design, Live Your Life, and it has like a free little chart, and you put in a little information. So I haven't done it yet, but I found it, and there's a resource there if our listeners want to check it out.
Absolutely. And I had kind of like glanced over it one time when somebody sent it to me, and I didn't really give it much attention, and then somebody sent me, they're like, hey, just so you know, here's this might help you. And I was like, holy cow, this makes so much sense, the way they broke it down. And so yeah, it's pretty profound. And it also will help people understand why they may not have been doing well with their manifestations in certain areas, depending on how they've been doing their work and so forth.
Do you want to tell us again? We were talking about it a little bit before the show, but you're a California girl. You're usually up in the North Pacific area there, as far as I know, and you're now down in the desert. What are you doing in the desert? What's a water girl doing in the desert?
So I had spent many years and many wasted collaborations. I really shouldn't call them wasted, because they all did really teach me something. But I basically came to a point in my experience where I was ready to do something more with my my work, and I had some visions I was holding on to. I found a really powerful and supportive collaborator who suggested that we might work well together in person, and invited me out to Phoenix, Arizona. And since my best friend on the entire planet lives out here as well, that was a pretty easy offer to agree to while we, temporarily created business plans and just kind of like got the engine revving moving forward. And this would be the first time I would have created anything in about, it would be roughly 12 to 15 years that has somewhat of a residual income, although it is entirely in service to humanity and does not, it's a gift. It's a gift to others. And while it does have a revenue source, the average user isn't having to do anything. And I know I'm sounding really vague. I'm sure I'm under non-disclosure agreements and so forth with collaborators and potential investors and so on. But this is something that does not exist and is badly needed. And I will say it is in the realm of activism and creating an easier way to strategize and implement activism in all forms, whether it's volunteerism or protests or, think tanks, whatever it is. And so we have that and a couple of other projects that we're creating. And it is my hope and belief that I will be back in the Pacific Northwest by summer, although as usual, I really do need to stay surrendered. That's what I'm putting out there, that everything will go smoothly enough that I don't actually have to spend a summer in the desert. But since I came out here, I did end up finding that there were some sort of pockets where the houseless population was underserved, very much like Los Angeles and other areas that I usually get brought into for that purpose, to see what's going on and sort of jumpstart services, you know, like literal just person to person, not even like organizations or nonprofits, but rogue grassroots movements. And so we do have Food Not Bombs out here and so forth, but it's clearly not reaching all the areas. And so ironically enough, I had a friend out here who had stayed in touch with me for the past couple of years that was homeless out here. And so he's now housed up and, you know, getting his life back in order, so to speak, by society standards. And so I'm teaming up with him, and we are going to be addressing the encampments and populations that others are ignoring or just are not able to get to and assist. And hopefully we'll be able to set a good example with that. I was also invited to collaborate with a fairly new healing center out here. So I'm acting as a community outreach representative, or today the title was director. Community outreach director is what I'm doing for them now, and creating, in addition to, you know, the events where people are coming in and doing for-profit events that are yoga related or documentary screenings and so on and so forth. I'm coming in and bringing the community at large into this healing space and introducing them to new concepts that they probably haven't seen before. So, for instance, we recently did an event for families that were either in domestic violence shelters or transitioning from shelters to state-provided housing while they got back on their feet after leaving domestic violence and surviving that. We brought them to the center. They had a day of pampering, and their kids had a great time. They had a great time. There was a lot of just empowerment and pampering and donations and gifts galore for them, and family photos, tons of different healers available. We did everything from massages to energy healing, drum circle, aromatherapy, you name it. And there was like creative spaces and face paintings, just all sorts of goodness for them. And the two that I'm currently organizing right now, one is an Evening for Peace, which is dedicated to veterans with PTSD, but we're also opening that to the community at large who is struggling with PTSD. And again, you know, the donation box is always there by the door, but we are offering this as a complete gift to these people, and we'll be doing a sound bath and, again, massages and aromatherapy and offering different healing services. And as always, we serve vegan food and, you know, gifts and music and so forth. So, and then the other one we're doing is for teens that are in the foster care system and currently living in group homes because they don't have a foster family. And so that's going to be coming up in late March. And that is another night of empowerment and gifts and just fun and stress relieving, but age appropriate activities with them. So we're going to get them a DJ and all of that. And again, lots of fun vegan foods and activities that will really give them a chance to see that they are loved by the world at large, and that you know, they are here for a reason. I intend on sharing a bit of my story with them and letting them know why I care about them and why I thought to create this event, and then, you know, allow others to speak to that as well and the importance and value we see in them. And, you know, circling back to the veterans event, same thing, just letting them know our gratitude for them and for what they've sacrificed. Because whether or not we agree with the military, these people genuinely, with their hearts, knew that they were sacrificing their lives for what they thought was our liberty and our freedom. And so whether or not the story they were told was true, their intentions were pure. And that's, now with compassion and gratitude for their intentions, I will be very careful about how I word that. But nonetheless, just honoring the space that they're coming from and their experience after sacrificing life as they knew it to protect people that they don't know.
Yeah, I'm anti-war, but I'm pro-warrior or pro-soldier. I mean, we need defense, we need protection, we should respect it, and we should take care of our warriors. And I also have a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder situations that I manage in my private business, where a lot of people, I say like 80% of my clientele deals with post-traumatic stress, and some of them are soldiers, ex-soldiers, or veterans, but then some of them are just, people who are just don't have war in their past, and it's such a huge thing that I think that I wish that we could fund psychological health. I wish someone could flip a switch and we take like half of the military funds and just flood it into psychological health and work with bolstering post-traumatic stress, because what that is it's just a playground where all kinds of ugly things can grow and things get taken out of context and the person's not living a satisfying life. And I think it's really important to take a look at that. And I'm so glad that you donate time and energy in this, Nikki. Can you tell everyone how they can get a hold of you in case they want to donate or help in any way that they can? Can you tell people how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, Facebook is always a good way, and they can find me as Nikki Starseed, Nikki, and then Starseed is all one word, star in the sky, seed in the ground. So you can find me in two ways, my personal profile and my fan page. It comes up as Nikki Wall on my personal page, but it still has Nikki Starseed in parentheses. And my website is nikkistarseed.love. And I'm also easy to find as Nikki Starseed on Patreon. And then last but not least, if they want to get involved with a peace movement that I have created that anybody can participate in, universalinspirationproject.com, which is the book I created that is a traveling book of demonstrations of love in action. So the person who buys it is doing so knowing it's going to move out of their hands. And in essence, it does have a few pages of text that explains the university research behind what it is that we're creating with this movement. And then each person is asked to demonstrate love in action for a stranger in public in some way or another. Write about their experience in the book, and then pass the book forward to somebody else they trust to do the same. And so those books are available on there, and there's more information on that on the website. And those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me and get involved in what I'm doing. I do have, the Patreon account is a great way to become a monthly patron that brings consistent support into my experience. And there are some really amazing benefits that I've added to that. In addition to if somebody just wants to offer a one-time donation, they can do that through my site or through even Facebook Messenger. It's really easy to do. I think that's it for now.
Awesome. Very cool. Very grateful for all of your work, and I just know your story is inspiring. Any person who's listening is like, oh, okay, I could probably help in this way or that way, and like you've given so many different ideas and so many different calls to action, and it's nice because you're an activist and you've spent time and you've held the real space there, and you're able to share that, and it's beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about? You mentioned how a little while back you took a vow of service. And I'm wondering, kind of a more personal question about that, I guess, is with this vow of service, how at the same time did you learn or do you establish boundaries for self-love and self-healing also? And because I know a lot of people and empaths and light workers out there struggle with being of service, but also really balancing and nurturing and caring for themselves. It seems like you kind of got that down. So I was wondering if you could speak about that.
It has been a lot of learning, for sure. I have not always been perfect at it. But what I will say is that in order to be of the greatest service to the world, we first need to be of the greatest service to ourselves. And so I personally, in my experience, have found that it means being willing to say no when we've given enough of ourselves to somebody and we don't see them helping themselves. We're not here to enable others. That is not of service to them when we're enabling victimhood or poverty consciousness or, things along those lines. We're here to uplift and empower others. So there have been times I've had to cut people off from me. I've had to say no to something. Recently, somebody wanted to join in to my intensive, and I told her, first, before you come in here, you need to be taking deliberate action in your own life. And I said it very lovingly and gently to her. I said, you need to get outside and be connecting with the people and doing something in your community that is making a difference in your life or others' lives somehow or another. And when she came back to me, she was, mentioning some of the things she was doing, and I just encouraged her to keep going. But, it takes a lot of self-love and love for others and balance. So for me, I have found that a minimalistic lifestyle is best for me. I have just the clothes that I want and need that number one, I feel comfortable in and I feel authentic in, but aren't extravagant, don't take up too much space. I have enough for each season, basically. A few days at a time of each season. And I keep a very healthy diet for myself of primarily raw fruits and vegetables. I do organic. I am vegan. And that's in service to myself and in service to the planet and all life on it, actually. I invite everybody to do their homework on that. I'll skip that for now, that lecture. I make sure that I am resting. And if I'm too tired, I will say no. If I am too stressed, I will stop and do what I have to do. Otherwise, I cannot be of the greatest service to others unless I'm of service to myself and unless I'm upholding my boundaries and knowing what my boundaries and limitations are. So, it can take some time for each person to learn that, but it's really about examining and being honest with yourself about your benevolent presence on the planet and how you can start with that benevolence within yourself.
I love it. I love the minimalist lifestyle. I feel best when I can put most of my belongings in my car. I can have some extras, and usually it's used goods, so I can get rid of them and replace them wherever I go. But I feel more comfortable in that space, too. And there's a thing on Netflix. Everyone's watching it and talking about it. It's a woman, Marie something, and she's talking about you need 35 books. I wouldn't recommend people having more than 35 books. But anyway, it's a big thing on Netflix right now, and she's basically preaching and teaching minimalists.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you specifically brought up the books because I'm actually a book connoisseur, and I intend on creating a community where I will host the Library of Wisdom, which will have a lot of books. But I typically, in general, like I have a small altar of the sacred items that I do own, and just a little bit in the closet. Like my space is really small and very uncluttered and very organized. Like she puts on there, I think her name is Maria Kondo or something like that. Like
yeah,
Kondo or something.
I think you're right.
think she's, I know she's of Asian descent. I just can't remember which. I've only seen like 2 episodes, but yeah, exactly. And I think that truly is a part of our individual efforts in the restoration of the planet. I believe that a paradise Earth starts within ourselves, like I said, as above, so below, within, without, body, mind, and spirit, thought, word, and deed, and then that is reflected in our home. Is my home heaven when somebody walks in it? And when I go out into the world, am I treating others like you know, am I heavenly in my experiences with others? Do I treat them in those ways? And I do believe that minimalist lifestyle helps us to eliminate the consumerist ideas around that so many of us have been programmed with, help us to be more mindful and conscious with our funds, which then free us up to be more giving to the right causes and to our own healing and so forth. And yeah, it just literally makes life easier for you. It's heavenly all the way around.
Yeah, and like you said so beautifully, it frees you up to donate to causes that are beneficial, and then also it does help the human. The phrase "less is more" it has gravity to it. When you have less to upkeep and to buy, you can work less, which makes generally people happier. And I've seen healers. That's usually who I surround myself with, healers, and working day in, day out, just to have, you know, a basic existence, and maybe having, you know, some bad spending habits, like maybe shopping or eating out or whatever. And I try, if they suggest that they have money issues, I try to help them see, well, if you just cut these 3 things out, you can work like 1.5 days less a week. That's tremendous. That frees up a lot of time to sleep, stare at a wall, go for a walk, whatever you like to do. And that's healing. Less is more, for sure.
Absolutely. 111%. I absolutely agree.
I love that. Every time I move, I think, you know, well, and not even every time I move, but I try every season to kind of declutter more. And like I was just reflecting on like how far I've actually come, and like I've been trying to embrace more minimalistic things for a while now. But like prior to that, like there was a while like I had my own. All of us healers, we've all been through our traumas and dramas and stuff, and you know, it encouraged me to hold on to more possessions than I needed. I wouldn't have called myself a hoarder, but I would say that I had way more than I needed, and like a whole house full of stuff when I was like 21, just in case, you know, anybody had to come home and be home and needed to be taken care of. And it took me a while to start getting rid of stuff, but like each and every time I've moved since, I've gotten rid of more and more. And I was just looking at my books in front of me right now, and I was like, I have more than 35 books. Is this about having only 35 books? It's like I got to look into that and take inventory of my books now and some other things. So it's very cool.
But you know
so
what
thank
I said,
you for that reminder.
You know what I said about the 35 books? I was like, but you know, I don't have a lot of clothes, so I can have extra books.
Right.
I don't have a lot of pots and pans, so I can have extra books. That was my, you know, that was how I okayed it. I was like, I have like 55. I'm on the line there, and I have less of other things, so it works out. I just love books, so it smells good.
It's always about compensation, right? And balance, and, you know, and finding, I think a lot of that, too, it's about finding joy, and if those things and items bring you joy and make your life easier, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about literally, you know, taking clutter out of your life that is literally extra baggage, and it gives you an emphasis on what means the most to you. So for me, it's my books and a small bit of clothing that makes me feel like I can express well in the world, whether I'm going out as a rainbow unicorn or just in comfortable hippie clothes or something professional for a meeting with a potential sponsor for an event or something like that. And just enough to be able to prepare my meals. I have found that living alone in a small space and not hosting people very often, I really only need one bowl, one plate, and like a mug and a cold drink cup, and that's it for myself. You know, and I didn't go all out. I literally have the 5-gallon jug of water with the pump on top. That's it looks like straight out off of, you know, a Burning Man playa or the Burning Man playa. But yeah, literally it's this very minimalistic existence, and it's just so easy to keep things clean, and yeah. And then it puts the emphasis on what does matter the most.
True. Well, thank you, Nikki. Thank you for coming on and sharing pieces of your heart and your wisdom and your higher self. And we appreciate you so much. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. I'm going to hand it over to Jennie to close out our show. I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Thank you, sisters.
Thank you, Nikki. Everyone, thanks for joining us. We're here every Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Monday we have a different guest, a different revolutionary, a different healer. You can also reach us on Facebook, the Alchemy Sisters. And our website, I think, is in construction as of now, but we'll get that out to you soon. Actually, we have the Alchemy Ascension Academy, but that will be changing soon, so stay tuned. Thank you, Nikki, for showing up again. Thank you, everyone, for showing up on the planet at this time so we can do our work together, collectively and individually. Everyone have a good night, and Goddess bless.
Good night.
Good night.